Hey everyone, before I get into the story, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more true scary stories. This one still creeps me out when I think about it. So this happened to me last spring break when I was 22. I didn't have any big plans. No Cancun, no Florida beaches, no big parties. Honestly, I wanted peace and quiet. I had some college assignments to finish and figured a cheap motel room a couple of hours away from my campus would make the perfect little personal retreat. The motel I picked wasn't anything fancy. Single floor, old brick building with faded green doors and rusting window frames. The kind of place truckers or traveling salesmen might have stayed at in the 70s. I chose it because it was dirt cheap and claimed to have free Wi-Fi. I figured all I needed was a bed, a desk, and some quiet. The guy at the front desk was strange from the start, mid-50s, chain smoking behind the counter, barely looked me in the eye. He gave me a room key, an actual old-school metal key, not a plastic card, and told me I was in room 9, way down at the far end, the last room before the wood started. That should have been my first warning sign. The first night was normal. I grabbed some fast food from a place across the highway, came back, binge-watched Netflix on my laptop, and fell asleep. Total peace and quiet. Exactly what I wanted. But the second night, that's when it got weird. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was sitting at the tiny desk by the window, typing up an essay for class, when I heard something. Tap, tap, tap. A light, slow tapping. At first, I thought it was part of the show playing on my laptop, but when I paused my headphones and listened carefully, the tapping was still there. It was coming from the window. Remember, the motel rooms all face the parking lot. There was nothing out there but gravel, a couple of cars, and a flickering yellow lot light that buzzed like an old street lamp, figuring it was the wind or maybe a tree branch. I stood up and gently pulled the curtain back an inch. Nothing, just the empty lot, quiet and still. No movement, no shadows. I let the curtain drop, sighed, and sat back down. About 10 minutes later, tap, tap, tap. This time I knew I wasn't imagining it. I felt a chill creep over me as I stood up again and yanked the curtain wide open. And that's when I saw him, a man standing perfectly still about 10 feet away from my window. He was older, maybe late 40s or early 50s, wearing a dirty gray hoodie with the hood half up and dark jeans that were torn at the cuffs. His face was mostly hidden in shadow, head slightly bowed as if he was staring at the ground. But I could feel it. He knew I was looking right at him. I froze. My heart kicked up in my chest. The longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. He didn't move, didn't shift or sway or fidget like a normal person would. He was like a statue. Then, slowly, he turned and walked away. No hurry, no fear, just casually heading past the cars toward the dark tree line at the edge of motel property. I stood there for another 5 minutes, staring at the trees, waiting for him to come back out, but he never did. I locked the door, checked the window latch twice, and told myself it was probably just some drifter or local drunk passing through. Weird, sure, but nothing to panic over. Still, I felt on edge. If you're enjoying this creepy story so far, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real scary encounters. You never know when something strange might happen to you. I sat back down and tried to shake it off. Eventually, I convinced myself it was harmless and went back to typing. But at exactly 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. It said, "Why'd you close the curtain?" I stared at the screen. No emoji, no typo. Perfectly written. My stomach turned to ice. See, my phone had been on airplane mode for the entire trip. No data, no calls. I only turned it back on that night to check the motel's Wi-Fi so I could email my professor. No one, not even the motel clerk, had my number. And then another message came in. Room 9 looks cozy. I grabbed my bag and started throwing things into it fast. I wasn't waiting around for this to get worse. Screw the refund. Screw the essay. I was getting out. But then, a knock at the door. Hard, angry, not gentle or polite. I froze, staring at the doorknob. Another knock, louder this time. Whoever was out there wasn't going away. I grabbed a chair from the desk and shoved it hard under the doorknob. My hand was shaking so bad, I nearly dropped it. My heart was pounding in my ears. Another text. You should answer, or I'll come in. I backed away, grabbing the tiny motel phone by the bed. My fingers barely worked as I dialed 911 and whispered my location. I told them someone was trying to break into my room. I begged them to hurry. Meanwhile, the knocking turned into full-on pounding. Heavy fists slamming the door over and over. The chair rattled under the knob. And then I heard it, the sound of metal scraping. The key. Someone was trying to unlock the door. They had a key. I don't know how. Maybe they'd stolen one. Maybe they'd worked here before. But they were jiggling the lock, trying to force it open. If not for that chair wedged under the knob, they might have been inside already. I crouched in the bathroom, gripping the phone, whispering to the operator to please send help fast. Outside, the pounding suddenly stopped. Sirens, red and blue lights flashed across the thin curtains. Voices shouted, real human voices. The police. They caught him behind the office building, trying to break into the main office to grab the master key set. Turns out, he was a former handyman. He'd been fired months earlier for creeping on guests. Somehow he kept a spare set of keys and had been living in a tent in the woods behind the motel. Watching, in his backpack, they found a map of the motel. Room 9 was circled in red. They said he'd been waiting for the right moment to use the key. And tonight was the night. I left that motel before sunrise. I didn't even bother asking for a refund. I just drove and didn't stop for hours. I've never stayed at a cheap roadside motel again. If you're enjoying these true scary stories, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You really don't want to miss what's coming next. This happened 2 years ago during spring break. My roommate Kayla and I had planned the trip for months. We were both juniors in college and ready for a break from exams, stress, and our crammed, noisy apartments. We ended up renting a beach condo in Daytona with two of our other friends, Sarah and Jess. It wasn't some luxury resort or anything, but it was a pretty nice place. 3rd floor, decent kitchen, clean bedrooms, and most importantly, a balcony with a full ocean view. We arrived on a Saturday afternoon. The weather was perfect. Blue skies, just enough breeze, and that salty air you can only get on the coast. The first 2 days were everything we needed. We spent mornings tanning on the beach, afternoons eating at seafood shacks, and evenings drinking cocktails we made ourselves. No drama, no creeps, just 4 friends enjoying their freedom. The 3rd night started off just like the others. After dinner, we hung out on the balcony with some drinks, passing around a Bluetooth speaker, playing music, laughing about stupid stuff from school. The stars were out, the waves crashed in the distance, and the air felt cool but calm. I remember looking out over the railing and saying how peaceful it was. Kayla, being the cautious one, laughed and said, "Yeah, until someone starts climbing up here like in a horror movie." We all laughed, but looking back, it doesn't feel that funny anymore. Around 12:30 a.m., we cleaned up the balcony. I remember Kayla sliding the glass door shut and turning the lock. She even pulled the curtain all the way across and checked the latch twice. "Just in case," she said with a smile. That was her thing. She always double-checked locks, even when we were still in the apartment. We all went to our rooms and turned in for the night. I didn't sleep all that well. I remember waking up a few times, hearing faint voices, maybe from a nearby room or from people down on the beach, but nothing that set off alarms in my head. Then around 3 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. The condo was mostly dark, except for a faint glow from the streetlight filtering through the curtains. I wasn't scared, just groggy. I remember walking barefoot across the cool floor, yawning. On my way back to the bedroom, I passed the living room. That's when I noticed it. The curtain on the sliding glass door was moving. Not much, just swaying gently, like there was a breeze. I paused. My stomach dropped a little. Then I saw the door was wide open. At first, I thought maybe Sarah had gone out there for air. Or Jess. We'd all been drinking. Maybe someone couldn't sleep and stepped outside. But when I walked closer and peered to the curtain, the balcony was empty. No one was there, just the beach down below, and the breeze pushing the curtain in and out like a slow breath. I felt a chill crawl up my arms. I quietly went to Kayla's room and nudged her awake. "Hey, did you open the balcony door again?" She sat up immediately, eyes still adjusting. "No, I locked it. You saw me." We woke Sarah and Jess next. None of them had opened the door. All of us were unnerved, but still trying to stay calm. Maybe someone forgot they opened it. Maybe the latch was loose. But then Jess pointed to the little table out on the balcony. There was a beer bottle sitting there, a brand none of us had brought. We stepped out carefully. There, on the glass table, was a bottle, half full, with condensation on the side, like it had been sitting there a while. And next to it, 2 long, gray-ash marks, smeared across the surface like someone had been flicking a cigarette while sitting there. But that wasn't the worst part. Smudged footprints, bare feet, dusty, dark outlines on the concrete floor of the balcony. They led from the railing to the door. Someone had climbed up 3 stories. We freaked. Jess slammed the door shut and locked it. Kayla was already on the phone with the building security desk. None of us felt safe enough to even breathe. The idea that someone had been that close to us, watching, was enough to make our skin crawl. Security arrived about 15 minutes later. 2 older guys in uniforms with flashlights and radios. They checked the stairwells, the hallways, and even the beach access ramp. Nothing. No strange cars in the lot. No signs of forced entry. No one loitering. One of them just shrugged and said, "Probably some beach bum messing around. Keep the doors locked." We didn't sleep that night. If you've made it this far and you're as creeped out as we were, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more true horror stories just like this. We sat up until sunrise, trying to piece everything together. Was it just some random drunk who thought he could climb up for a free drink and a scare? Or was it something more deliberate? Around 5:15 a.m., I walked over to the balcony door to check the lock again. That's when I noticed something. Wedged just under the metal frame of the door was a tiny piece of folded paper. I almost missed it. It was tucked into the track, like someone had slid it there when the door was open. I picked it up carefully and unfolded it. It was damp from the ocean air, the ink a little smudged, but still readable. Scrawled in rough handwriting were the words, "Beautiful girls, nice view." That was it. No name, no symbol, just those 7 words. I remember showing it to Kayla. Her face went pale. Jess took a picture of her evidence, and we handed it over to security. They didn't seem too concerned. Said they'd keep an eye on things, and reminded us not to leave valuables out. That note haunted me more than anything else. It wasn't just that someone had climbed up. It wasn't just the footprints or the beer bottle or the cigarette ash. It was that they watched us, sat there while we laughed and drank, and had no idea they were just a few feet away. Maybe they were waiting for us to fall asleep. Maybe they were hoping we wouldn't lock the door. Kayla swears she felt like someone had been inside the condo that day while we were gone. Maybe they had. Maybe they were testing us. Either way, we packed up the next morning and left early. No one argued. We just wanted out. To this day, I triple-check every balcony lock, even if it's on the 5th floor. And I always check the door frame. Because once you've had someone watch you like that, it's hard to ever feel truly alone again. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. There's still one more disturbing spring break story coming. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. This happened just last year, during spring break. I wasn't into the whole beach party scene like everyone else. No wild trips to Miami or Panama City. Instead, I decided to visit my older cousin Matt, who lived a couple of hours away in his off-campus apartment near the university he was attending. I figured it'd be nice to chill somewhere new, eat some junk food, play video games, and unwind for a few days without the noise of campus life. Matt's apartment building was, well, old, real old, built back in the 70s. with that worn-out feeling that cheap college housing always seems to have. The hallways smelled faintly of dust and mildew, and the lights flickered now and then like they couldn't decide whether to stay on or off. It was 4 stories tall, square-shaped, and all the apartments lined these long, echoing corridors that seemed way too quiet for how many students supposedly lived there. When I arrived late Wednesday night, Matt let me in with a smile. We spent most of the evening gaming, downing greasy pizza, and catching up. I remember sitting there on his ratty old couch, half listening to him complain about finals and professors while the wind outside made that weird moaning sound old buildings always seem to make. By 1 a.m., I was beat. I tossed a blanket over myself on the couch while Matt headed to his room. The apartment was small but cozy. I didn't feel uneasy at all. At least, not yet. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up. At first, I wasn't sure why. Everything was dark except for the faint yellow glow from a hallway light leaking in under the front door. I lay there for a second, blinking in the darkness, heart slowly returning to a normal rhythm after being startled awake. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps coming from a hallway right outside. I figured it was just some neighbor coming home late from a bar or something. But something felt wrong. The steps weren't brisk or hurried, like someone eager to get inside. They were deliberate, slow, almost heavy, like the person was half dragging a foot behind them. And they didn't pass by. They stopped right in front of our door. I held my breath, frozen under the blanket, staring at the thin slice of light under the door. I waited to hear the jingle of keys or a door opening nearby, but nothing came. No sound at all, just a still, suffocating silence. And then the softest sound. Tap, tap, tap. 3 gentle taps on the door. Not a knock. Not hard enough to wake the whole floor. Just light and careful. Like they wanted to make sure only we heard it. My stomach clenched. I sat up slowly, staring at the door. There was a little peephole, but Matt kept the cover flap down because it was broken and let light leak in otherwise. I couldn't see who it was. Tap, tap, tap. I couldn't stand it. I crept down the hallway and shook Matt awake. He groggily sat up, rubbing his eyes. "What?" he mumbled. "There's someone at the door," I whispered. That woke him fast. He stiffened, listening. Then the tapping came again, his face drained of color. "Don't open it," he said quietly, pulling the blanket up to his chest. I asked him who it could be. A neighbor? Someone drunk? Matt shook his head. His voice was low, barely audible. "There's this guy, they call him the hallway man. He doesn't live here. Nobody knows where he comes from. Sometimes, late at night, he just shows up, walks the halls, stops at random doors, taps. He never says anything, just stands there. Management's tried to catch him, but they can't. He always disappears before they get there." I stared at him. "You're kidding." Matt just shook his head again, eyes wide. "Last semester, he tapped on the door down the hall 3 nights in a row. Then he stopped, but no one ever sees him come in or leave. And the weird thing, the cameras in this wing, broken for months." I felt ice in my veins. We sat there in the dark, holding our breath, waiting for the footsteps to leave. But they didn't. After what felt like forever, the tapping got louder, harder, like he was growing impatient. Then the doorknob began to rattle gently, turning softly, like someone testing the lock. Thank God, Matt always used a deadbolt. The knob jiggled, but the door held tight. And then, the worst sound of all, we heard him crouch down. You could tell by the shifting of sound, the way his weight moved against the door. Then a whisper, low, raspy. "I know you're in there." I could barely breathe. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like it would shake the walls. Matt grabbed his phone and slowly dialed campus security, hands trembling. But just as he hit call, the sounds outside stopped. No more whispering, no more knob turning, just silence. We strained our ears, waiting for footsteps walking away. But there were none. Finally, Matt crept to the door. Slowly, carefully, he flipped open the broken peephole cover and peered outside. "No one," he whispered. But something else was there. Wedged tight into the crack of the doorframe was a small, torn piece of old newspaper. Matt slowly pulled it free and unfolded it. One word, written in shaky black ink. Soon. If you're feeling creeped out right now, hit that like button and subscribe for more real horror encounters like this, because it gets worse. Security finally arrived nearly an hour later. They checked the hallway, the stairwells, the exits. They even peeked around the building outside, but they found nothing. Nobody. And the cameras that covered this part of the hallway? Still broken. The guard who checked our door shrugged. We get calls like this sometimes. Some weird dude messing around, but he's always gone when we show up. I left the next morning. Matt called me 2 weeks later. Guess what? The hallway man came back. Tapped on the door of the apartment 2 doors down. Did the exact same thing. Left a slip of paper jammed in their door with the word "wait" scrawled on it. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows where he goes. No one ever catches him. And the landlord swears no one matching his description lives there. But every few weeks, someone gets the taps. To this day, whenever I hear soft tapping, at home, at a hotel, anywhere, it sends chills down my spine. I don't care how late it is. I never answer. And if I stay somewhere new, I check the peephole at least 3 times before I sleep. Because once you've had someone whisper that they know you're there, you never feel safe again. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more disturbing true encounters, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. There are plenty more real horror stories to come.